Hello and welcome back to another video. Here's a video that I try to do every year as it does change over time as you find out what works best for you. And so today I'm going to be talking about my autofocus settings for the Canon R6 for sports photography. These are what work for me. You might find things that might work better for you and what other creators or other photographers might say is better for them or for you. It's really what you find works best in the scenario that you were shooting. So we're going to jump into my autofocus settings and what I found worked best for me this year in the variety of sports that I cover. So on this first slide, I'm shooting everything with, I have the autofocus operation in servo. You can go to one shot or servo. Servo allows it to continuously autofocus as you have pressed the shutter. Autofocus method is going to change depending on what I am shooting. So I jump around I use the face tracking when I find that it works best. And that's usually in like long jump and usually pole vault. That way I can lock onto their face as they're running up to the pole or running up to the pit, and it stays on their face as they jump through. Now, I do find times where other autofocus settings work better. I find that zone AF works really good when I am shooting towards a batter, either in softball or baseball. It gives me a nice square rectangular area that covers the batter, and if you're close enough, it's only going to focus on them. Now, if you're really far back and you're trying to use this, it's probably going to try to focus on someone past them or a subject past them maybe. But if you're close enough and that area only covers them, here I'll just go and show. You see a white square outline on the image, and it's going to try to focus in that area. And so you can also do that with the vertical and a horizontal. The horizontal I find out comes in very handy when I'm shooting and wanting to get a sequence of a picture and I'm on their side. That way I don't have to move the camera. I can just burst and it will follow them from left to right or right to left depending on what side you're shooting from. And it's gonna keep the autofocus on them the whole time. That way then you can do a cool blended photo of the sequence of a pitch. So that comes in handy there. And I use the vertical for long jump on occasions as well, because they're gonna jump up. And so as they go up, it stays in that autofocus range. Now, I would say the one that I use the most is 1.AF. 1.AF is gonna be the autofocus mode that I use the most. And that just, that one just seems to work the best for me in my situations. So that's what I'm using. But you can bounce around through these and find out what works best for you. I have subject to detect. I have it set on people. Having it set to people is because I am shooting people. But obviously you can see there are other options that you can choose from. I have not tried any of these other than people. And then you got eye detection. That's not gonna work if you are in a autofocus mode that allows it. So that comes on if you go to face detection. You could turn on eye detection, enable or disable. And then you have continuous AF. I have that disabled because that will constantly focus even if you're not touching the shutter, which is gonna just kill your battery. And it might cause your lens to hunt or not be ready when you go to shoot at that area that you've been shooting at. Because when you move your camera, it's gonna focus to infinity, or it can focus to a minimum focusing distance if you're pointing the camera down as you're walking. So I have that disabled. Movie servo AF I have enabled. I use the movie mode often. I hit record and do some video. So I leave that enabled. That way it's ready for when I need to use it. Now we're gonna go over to AF2 on the menu here. Let me get that in focus for you. So AF2. And that has focus mode. That's where you could choose AF and manual focus, so auto and manual. I stick in auto, obviously, for most things. There are times where I find manual focus works, and that is when I use a remote camera and I want to be able to leave it in a spot and for it not to lose focus. So I will pre-focus and put in manual focus so it stays there. That way when I am shooting with the remote, I don't have to worry about the photos being out of focus. You have some manual focus settings in here. I have peaking on, so when I can see what's in focus, it's going to highlight things in the color that you've chosen. I have red and I have the level high, so I can see when I put in manual focus, what's in focus is going to have a red line outline to it all, which comes in very handy when you're trying to pre-focus for any sports photos or any photos in general. Focus guide, I have it on. I'm not really sure what it is. I've never turned it off or turned it off. I think it was on when I got the camera, so it's just stayed on. Now I have autofocus assist beam firing. I have it off simply because I haven't had to use it, and I've never really tried to turn it on and see where it aids me. It probably comes in handy if you're in a very, very dark situation. But in sports, most of the time you're gonna have enough light to at least hit focus. So that could be something you can look into, but I have never used it. And now we come to slide 3, and that is the cases. This is the one I get asked about the most. This is one that I still don't know which one I would prefer, but I usually stick with 2. It says to continue to track subjects ignoring possible obstacles. So I find this one tends to work the best for me because as say a running back is running through a group of people, it's gonna do its best to stay focused on him as they're running through, and if someone comes into the front of the camera, it should stay on the subject you were originally tracking. Now, you can go through and change the tracking sensitivity and the acceleration, deceleration tracking as well. I do not touch these, but I will say I have cycled through these other cases to see what works best for me, and I feel like I come back to case 2 more often than not. So for now, case 2 is what I am using. Others might use something else. You might have already found one that you prefer and that works for you, and that's okay. Now we're going to slide 4. Slide 4 here has another set of menu settings. This has lens electronic manual focus. That is going to come in handy for RF lenses. I have that at the top disabled after one shot, simply because I don't use it. I haven't touched this menu very, very often. Switching track subjects I have set to 1. You could put it to 2 to switch subjects, or initial priority where you originally started. I have it on 1. That's probably the stock selection that it had, because I don't mess with this slide or the next one very often. Now you have lens drive when autofocus impossible. I have it on. Limit AF methods I haven't touched. So the rest of these I haven't really touched, and same with the other slide. I haven't touched any of these, but you can change the way the focus ring rotation is, the sensitivity of it. If you want to reverse it to go the other way versus to go to infinity, you could switch what direction you spin the lens focus ring to get it to where you need to go. Those are some settings that I don't touch, and that's menu 5. I just don't touch them. The 1, 2, and 3 are the ones that I touch the most, but those are the settings that I find work best for me. I do find that some lenses I do change some of the settings on, just because some of them are not as fast, or they might, like my macro lens, I've got to set the all-time manual focus to on. That way when it's trying to hunt and it's not finding it, I can just spin the focus ring and get the focus that I need quicker, because sometimes when it's hunting, it's very slow with a macro lens to get snapped back to where you need it. Those are the settings that work for me. They might not be the ones that you've been told to use. They might not be the ones that you find that are best for you, but they are the ones that work for me and have worked for me for the past year to 2 years since I've been bouncing around different sports. And with that said, I'd appreciate it if you'd like to subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions, or a video that you want to see. And with that said, I will see you next time.